The ugly duckling. In a distant lake called Love, lived a couple of ducks as yellow as the sun, Ari and Amanda. Ari was a musician. He traveled to many lakes around the world, bringing his beautiful songs. Amanda, besides taking care of the household chores, worked taking care of other ducklings, the children of her friends. One day, Amanda and Ari decided to have their own brood, as they had long ago decided to share their lives with offspring. Amanda asked for help from her mother, Victoria, who came to live with them. After being widowed, Victoria started traveling the world, but now she returns to the Lake of Love to help take care of her future grandchildren. After all, Victoria already knew it wouldn't be just one. Ari then had to travel to fulfill a commitment at the Northern Lake. Ari was performing at the Northern Lake, a lake above the equator, when he received a letter from Amanda by carrier pigeon, informing him to return home as she felt she would soon lay her eggs. Ari returns, crossing the lakes of longing and distance, until he reaches the Lake of Love, where he lived with his beloved. He knew he needed to arrive quickly to help. Upon arrival, Ari found Amanda already laying the eggs. Now, 4 days, she had to stay there. Amanda sat incubating, until one day, the chicks started to break out of their shells. The ducklings were born and started calling for their mother duck, one by one, the 5 ducklings. All as yellow as the sun. The first one to be born was Evo, the second Otavio, the third to be born was Vanessa, the fourth was Vicente, and the fifth to be born was Evelina. They were all leaving the nest when Mother Amanda noticed an egg hidden among the grass. "Wait!" cried the mother duck. "There is still a 6th egg, not yet hatched." What could have happened? She thought. She became worried. So, Amanda left the 5 ducklings for Ari to take care of and went to hatch the last egg, as there was still one more to be born. The egg was different and larger than the others. Amanda sat down and continued to warm the egg for days. One morning, she heard the shell cracking and the song of the newborn, which sounded like a trumpet, a hoarse voice, calling for its mother. "How ugly!" exclaimed Amanda when she saw the white puppy larger than the others. Could it be a goose? Amanda continued to think. Ugly or not, he is my son, and we will see what he is when he enters the water with his siblings. The mother duck named the puppy Epitapio, as she remembered her great-grandfather who had the same name. Amanda brought the puppy to join the others and her husband Ari. Everyone watched in amazement at the differences. As soon as they could, the father and mother duck sent a letter by the pigeon post Giane, addressed to the paternal grandparents from the distant lake, informing them that the 6 ducklings had already been born and that they could now meet the new family members. The joy was immense upon receiving the letter. The grandparents began to prepare to travel, eager to meet their grandchildren and see the whole family again. In the morning, Amanda and Ari were surprised to see all the ducklings swimming in the lake, gliding lightly with their feathers. The parents were even more surprised when they observed Epitapio, who swam with an elegant and incomparable pose. Mama Amanda watched Epitapio with admiration, and soon regretted calling her son ugly at birth, but thought, he is very different from the others, ly again. All the family's neighbors observed Epitapio. Whenever they could, they exclaimed without thinking, "How ugly that last Amanda's puppy is." Mama Duck always defended Epitapio, saying, "Just because he is different doesn't mean he's ugly. And he is my son." So Amanda quickly left without giving many explanations. As the days went by, the family adapted to Epitacio's differences, and he, very intelligent and studious, sought the origins of his difference, always comparing himself to his parents and siblings. After a few days, Ari had to leave to fulfill his artistic schedule and participate in a competition in Lake dos Cantos. He couldn't miss this schedule, especially now with 6 ducklings to feed. So, Ari had to work hard in his profession and win the competition. Victoria, the grandmother of the ducklings, has fun helping Amanda with everything. While the mother teaches them how to fly, the grandmother prepares goodies for breakfast. For lunch, she left everything finely chopped. Victoria gets up very early to prepare everything for the 8 beaks. For dinner, the grandmother duck prepares another menu, or also with leftovers from lunch, as she knows she cannot waste any food. As time passed, the ducklings grew up. One by one, they revealed their personalities. Ivo, the oldest duckling, awakened to the world of the arts, especially music, just like his father. Ottavio, an animated and sometimes very funny duckling, likes to fish. Vanessa is very vain, she likes to walk and be tidy. The mother says she takes after her paternal grandmother. Vicente, a fearless and inspired duckling, likes adventures, and in the pond, instead of swimming, he likes to surf. Evelina, a shy duckling, helps her mother and grandmother with all the household chores. Epitacio, the different duckling, loves to study and says he will work early. Even though he gets sad sometimes, he always tries to help others. Thus, he completes himself and forgets his differences, as the duckling knows how to put himself in others' shoes. Finally, the paternal grandparents arrived. What joy! They brought a surprise from their trip. It was Ari's father, who had finished his contest in Lake of Voices. Before telling the news, Amanda and Ari hurried to introduce their children to the grandparents. One by one, they introduced themselves, but Epitacio was missing at that moment, as he was still studying. He couldn't hold back and, after the children's introduction, told the news, I won the contest of the 4 corners, in Lake of Voices. A highly competitive contest, with important names as judges, said the duck father. For winning the singing contest, Ari received a prize that would help sustain the family and career for a few more years. Everyone celebrated the achievement, and Grandma Victoria made a delicious orange cake to celebrate. Epitacio arrived in the midst of the party, and without understanding what was going on, tried to fit in. Epitacio called Mom Amanda to introduce the duckling. Come here to meet your paternal grandparents, Everaldo and Ana Beatriz. I will, Mom. Epitacio replied, with great elegance and enthusiasm. The grandparents, upon looking at Epitacio, couldn't hide their surprise. The differences were many, and they were left speechless. Epitacio, used to being treated like this, excused himself and left. He went to the lake to cry, and thought, why am I so different? What can I do to change and not be so ugly? The duckling asked as he cried even more. Epitacio fell asleep from exhaustion and gradually, like the movement of the lake, he became distant from his home. At dawn, he was surprised by 2 ducks at the lake, who woke him up with pecks, saying, What are you? You're not a duck. What a strange bird. This is our lake and you can't stay here, leave now. Epitacio apologized and left without thinking, because he didn't want to be pecked again. He swam, 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 until one day he found a house. There lived a peasant, his wife, and 2 children. Epitachio met the family's animals, a chicken, a cat, a dog, a cow, who, upon seeing the duckling, asked, "What are you? How ugly!" Some said, "How strange!" Others thought. Upon hearing this, duckling Epitachio became even sadder. Now that he was far from his family, what would happen to him? As he left the house, he noticed the cat watching a little bird carefully. Epitachio couldn't help himself and, with his paws, stepped on the cat's foot, causing it to run to the backyard. The little bird, very grateful, thanked Epitachio for saving its life. And so, he set out once again in search of answers. Sometimes crying, sometimes singing, Epitachio spent his days swimming in the lake and trying to make new friends. Until one beautiful day he saw 2 beautiful white birds land on the waters of Lake Origem. Epitachio hid, watching the majestic birds until one of them spotted him. It was a swan coming towards him, and when he bowed his head to apologize, an image reflected in the lake began to reveal itself. "What? Is this me?" he exclaimed, amazed by his reflection in the water. The swan saw and danced around Epitachio, saying, "You are one of us. Come with us, we live in Swan Lake." So, Epitachio, full of joy, understood his origin and accepted the invitation. "But before I go, I need to do something," Epitachio said. "Can you help me?" he asked his new friends. "Yes," the swans replied. With the help of his new friends, Epitachio returned to the Lake of Love. His parents' happiness was immense at seeing their son again, and everyone's admiration for Epitachio's beauty was now expressed in words. Amanda, Ari, his siblings, his grandparents, all embraced him. It was an emotional reunion. Thus ended Epitachio's search for his origin. Now, the family understands his differences. Before saying goodbye, Epitachio promised his family that he would visit them with every changing season, as he was now going to live in Swan Lake, where he would finish his studies, find a job, build his house, and life among his relatives. Differences are not ugly, just different.